Welcome back to Quiz Blitz. Build your dream house in the special luxury edition with 50 impossible choices. First question. Which house do you prefer? Which kitchen do you prefer? Which living room do you prefer? Are you sure about your answer? Which jacuzzi do you prefer? Which bathroom do you prefer? Which washing machine do you prefer? Which bathtub do you prefer? Which shower do you prefer? Can you make a decision? Which toilet do you prefer? What's your answer? Which bedroom do you prefer? Which living room do you prefer? It's time to make a choice. Which couch do you prefer? Which doghouse do you prefer? Tell me in the comments what your choices are. Which coffee machine do you prefer? Which stairs do you prefer? What's your choice? Which bed do you prefer? Which toilet do you prefer? Which bathtub do you prefer? I want to dive into both. Which bed do you prefer? Which armchair do you prefer? Which pool table do you prefer? Which bed do you prefer? Which closet do you prefer? Which library do you prefer? Which bag do you prefer? Which pool do you prefer? Which lipstick do you prefer? Which bed do you prefer? They make me hungry. Which doghouse do you prefer? Which couch do you prefer? Which bathtub do you prefer? Which bed do you prefer? Which living room do you prefer? Which jewelry do you prefer? Which sink do you prefer? Which stroller do you prefer? Do you have an idea? Which garden do you prefer? Which shoes do you prefer? Which car do you prefer? Which bed do you prefer? Which armchair do you prefer? Which couch do you prefer? Which garden do you prefer? Which bar do you prefer? Think carefully. Which pool do you prefer? Which boat do you prefer? Which dress do you prefer? Which manicure do you prefer? Which couch do you prefer? Which yacht do you prefer? Pick your next challenge and make sure to like and subscribe.